Mifu's banner has just gone live, and between her grouping capability, great Stagger build, and obscene damage output, she is a force to be reckoned with, elevating physical teams to be on par with the absurdly strong arts operators we've gotten recently. So let's quickly go through the basics of her abilities and gear, as well as some of her teams and rotations to get you started. I'll have a much more comprehensive guide that covers her in greater detail, but for now, let's keep her kit overview short. Mifu's gameplay revolves around her battle skill, Xingbo Triplex. It's the first multi-part skill of the sort we've gotten. Use it once and you get Cloud Trapper, grouping enemies and bringing them close. Alternatively, it groups enemies and brings mifu close if an enemy can't be dragged. Although it costs 100 SP to use, it returns 50, making it a great tool for multi-target stages. After that though, and she gets Trail and Mangle, which consumes vulnerability stacks to trigger Crush. Pretty standard. It's unique in the sense that it costs 50 SP, which means it's usable even when at under 100. Then if Trail and Mangle consumes 3 or more vulnerability stacks, she gets a third skill unlock, World Splitter. Also having a 50 SP cost, this will crush enemies but neither needs nor consumes vulnerability stacks, having a fixed multiplier instead. It works just like a regular crush, scaling from arts intensity and not benefiting from battle skill damage or link buffs. With her talents unlocked though, if an enemy is staggered or under physical susceptibility, its already high damage is increased further, doing almost as much as a 4-stack crush. So getting as many uses of her battle skill 2 and 3 during a burst period is key to getting the most damage out of Mifu. Well-managed rotations can get up to 4 crushes in a single stagger period. Spending SP on her battle skill 1 to get to the others isn't optimal though, and this is where her other skills come in. Her combo skill is triggered when 3 vulnerability stacks are built, and with it, Mifu will uppercut and slam down enemies. This also applies a 16-second 5% physical susceptibility debuff, and with her talent, gives her a 10-second shield, the latter of which has a 60-second cooldown. Perhaps more important than either of these is that after use, she can shortcut to her battle skill 2 for the next 15 seconds. No need to spend SP on her battle skill 1. The same behavior is also present on her ultimate, which builds a vulnerability stack by a lift on the first hit, then does heavy damage after. It has a reasonably low cost of 80 energy and tends to be integrated into Mifu's rotations. The actual multipliers on the skill aren't all that great in comparison to other operators, but its stack build and shortcut makes it especially useful. Lastly, there's her basic attack. It seems standard at first, dealing 25 stagger and regenerating 28 SP while being very long. Not much different from Ember's. Thankfully, it has multiple animation cancel points. One is after the first hit of its second sequence, and another after the startup of her second slashing attack on the third sequence. While the former offers very minimal gains, animation cancelling the latter yields a significant time save, making Mifu one of the best controlled operators in the game for stagger and SP build. That's really all there is to her kit. Ideally on-field her while animation cancelling her basic attacks and build up to 4 vulnerability stacks. From there, combo skill to get a free shortcut to her battle skill 2, do a lot of damage with it and the battle skill 3 that follows, then build up to another 4 vulnerability stacks to do it all over again, making use of her ultimate's lift to get there faster. Gear-wise, she's going to be using the new Grizzled Edge set. It gives an unconditional attack percent bonus, as well as physical damage dealt when crush or breach is applied. This damage buff increases with the more vulnerability stacks that are consumed, and is increased again if the target was under physical susceptibility, stagger, or originium crystals. Considering Mifu's combo skill applies susceptibility and most of her damage is in stagger anyways, this isn't hard to maintain. There's 2 configurations for her. The standard is 2 Grizzled Edge bush knives and the gauntlets, with a Swordmaster light armor off-base, as for most of her rotations the ultimate gain efficiency is needed. Since all that her ultimate is doing is building a vulnerability stack and waving away the 50 SP cost of her battle skill 1, not every team on rotation needs it early. In such cases, running her with the Grizzled Edge armor and then using a Swordmaster nav beacon as the off-base would yield the highest damage. As for weapons, her signature is a significant improvement over a P5 Phantom Pain, the Battle Pass pick, being a similar disparity in personal damage as that of Feng Yi, an operator notorious for having a large gap. Thankfully, her teams have more spread out damage, lessening its importance, and she has an alternative with Exemplar, as she can max out its passive with just 1 cast of her battle skill. A P5 Battle Pass weapon is stronger than a P0 Exemplar, but as refinements go up, it begins to catch up. Depending on saturation, a P3 Exemplar is likely to be a matching or better option, and at P4 or P5, it is noticeably better. When it comes to her teams, there's 3 main setups. The first would be a traditional physical focus composition with Mifu as the main damage dealer, having Chen and Pogranichnik as core operators to support. Ardelia or Lifeng both make for great 4th slot options, with the former being more damage and the latter having some situational use cases. Ember is the worst pick but can work as a survivalist alternative, and there's ways to mix and match them if certain units aren't available. The second is a traditional Shatter composition, so Chen, Estella and Alish, but with Mifu taking the crush slot. This is arguably her weakest team in terms of damage output, but its high stagger can allow for it to shine on some niches, making for good speedruns. Lastly are Rossi teams. While historically hybrid comps haven't done as well as pure arts for her, Mifu's multipliers are so ridiculously high that using Pogranichnik to help her burst and AKEF for Rossi is both accessible and incredibly competitive. Pure arts variations, like with Perlica and Gilberta, work just as well, with Mifu often making for a better sub DPS than Tank, increasing the team's damage ceiling. Now that we've covered most of the important bits about Mifu, let's go through her rotations one by one. For most of these, Mifu or other operators may be using low-level weapons, as her damage output is so high that Effigy, the training dummy used here, would be dead long before rotations could end. Do not take her damage at face value, as gear was tailored for illustration purposes only. It's also important to be aware that Effigy is an elite and not a boss. It only gives 50 SP on finisher, which does make rotations be more strict on resources. Each subsection should stand on its own, so feel free to skip to the timestamp of the rotation you're interested in. Let's begin by going over a Mifu, Chen, Pogranichnik, and Ardelia rotation. On paper, this has the highest damage output out of physical-oriented Mifu teams, but is partially gated by SP and energy requirements. It begins with Mifu as a controlled operator. Do a full basic attack string, ideally timing Chen's battle skill to land shortly after the final strike, triggering both Ardelia's and Chen's combo skills. Use both in quick succession to minimize time stop of faster clears. For now, the rotation is gated behind Chen's combo skill cooldown, so loop basic attacks and animation cancel sequence 3 where possible. As soon as Chen's combo skill is back up, use her battle skill and trigger Mifu and Chen's combo skills. Follow with both in quick succession, with Mifu's combo ideally being used to cancel her basic attack animations. After which, use Pogranichnik's battle skill to apply breach, consuming vulnerability stacks before the next final strike. This triggers his own combo skill, then the final strike triggers Ardelia's, but don't use either one yet. Wait for Chen's combo skill cooldown to expire first and then use her battle skill. With all 3 combo skills stacked, use all of them in quick succession to minimize time stop. This has the added benefit of delaying Pogranichnik's combo skill, which helps ensure that Thermite Cutter's buff is up for the start of Stagger. Before camping out on SP, use Ardelia's battle skill to apply her susceptibility debuff. Even though Chen's combo skill may be coming off cooldown, don't trigger it quite just yet. Try to land a final strike with Mifu, timing Chen's battle skill to land with it. This gives extra SP that's needed for their rotation and will put the enemy in a staggered state. There should be almost 200 SP left after Chen's battle skill. Any less than it may cause problems later. Use both Mifu and Chen's combo skill in quick succession, as well as Ardelia's ultimate to activate Sansa's buff, followed by Chen's ultimate. Although Chen's ultimate is used early, Mifu will land the second strike of her combo skill before the bulk of Chen's damage hits, ensuring physical susceptibility is applied on time. Follow with a Mifu battle skill 2 cast and a battle skill 3, using this as the cue to use Pogranichnik's ultimate. As it casts, use Chen's battle skill, and as soon as Mifu's battle skill 3 lands, cancel its recovery with her ultimate. The lift from it will give her fervent morale, and while the animation plays, use Chen and Pogranichnik's combo skills in quick succession. After it's done, chain into Mifu's finisher and use a Chen battle skill during it. This applies the 4th and final vulnerability stack, while also topping up SP with Pogranichnik's ultimate the size of strike. When combined with the SP from Mifu's finisher, there's enough for a battle skill 2 and 3, landing just before Stagger ends. I should point out that technically, the most SP efficient way of doing this rotation would be by using Mifu's battle skill 2 to trigger vulnerability after breach, owing to its half SP cost, but the lack of energy generation from this makes it unfeasible until P4. With all this in mind, let's have a look at the rotation in full without commentary. In terms of gear, Mifu was using the ultimate gain efficiency setup, as she needed her ultimate's vulnerability sack application, as well as a way to trigger Pogranichnik's shield guards, needed for both SP and fervent morale. Chen is using Qingbo gauntlets with a new positioning kit T1, as it's both a strong damage option and a way to minimize her combo skill cooldown, which is what the rotation works around. She needs no ultimate gain efficiency, so a Sword Mancer Heavy Armor T1 is used as the off-piece. Pogranichnik is using a Frontier set, with Protection Suit, Fiber Gloves T1, and O-Tube, with Redeemer's Seal being the off-piece. While he would be far better when built for pure arts intensity, the SP recovery on his ultimate is mandatory for their rotation, so he uses ultimate gain efficiency pieces instead. Ardelia is running full Shironite, so that's armor, gloves T1 and auxiliary arms, for both its buff and its ultimate gain efficiency, which is needed to be able to activate Stanza at the start of Stagger. This specific setup isn't necessary though, and pieces can be shifted around to a hot work power cartridge if ultimate gain efficiency lines are fully artificed. That about covers it for this team. Let's now go over a Mifu, Chen, Pogranichnik and Lifeng rotation. Although this is lower damage than an Ardelia variant on paper, especially at P0 Lifeng, it can provide faster bursts and could be superior in some speedrunning scenarios. It begins with Mifu as a controlled operator. Start with a basic attack string, using Lifeng's battle skill as soon as the enemy spawn. Dash cancel out of Mifu's final strike and time it so that it hits right after Lifeng applies susceptibility, triggering both Chen and his own combo skill. Use both in quick succession to minimize time stop for faster clears. For now, the rotation is gated behind Chen's combo skill cooldown, so loop basic attacks or animation cancelling sequence 3 where possible. As soon as Chen's combo skill is back up, use her battle skill and trigger Mifu and Chen's combo skills. Use both in quick succession, with Mifu's combo being used to cancel her basic attack animations. After which, use Pogranichnik's battle skill to apply breach, consuming vulnerability stacks. Once the next final strike hits, Lifeng's combo skill is triggered, owing to Mifu's susceptibility, so use both his and Pogranichnik's combo skills together to minimize time stop. Soon after, use Lifeng's battle skill. This should align with Chen's combo skill cooldown, which is to be used as soon as it's triggered. When Mifu's combo skill cooldown is about to expire, use Lifeng's battle skill. This could be Chen's as well if at P0 Lifeng, but at P1 and above, this would reapply his susceptibility and ensure it's up for the burst. Go into Mifu's combo skill as soon as it's triggered, then try to land a final strike with her, timing Chen's battle skill to land alongside it. This does delay things slightly, but it triggers Lifeng's combo skill and will put the enemy in a staggered state. Go into Mifu's battle skill 2 straight away, then use Chen, Lifeng and Pogranichnik's combo skills in quick succession. Owing to time stop mechanics, although Pogranichnik goes last, his combo skill has priority and lands first. As soon as the first hit lands, transition into Mifu's battle skill 3 and immediately go into Pogranichnik's ultimate. Lifeng's combo skill lands shortly after the cutscene ends, and since Mifu already began her battle skill 3, the link isn't consumed. So use Chen's ultimate at this point, which will benefit in full from Lifeng's link instead. This is then followed by Lifeng's own ultimate. While they cast, go into Mifu's finisher. Time stop mechanics come into play again, as Mifu's combo skill cooldown was ticking even during the ultimate cutscenes. So do 1 or 2 basics, then time Chen's combo skill to land right as Mifu's is ready. Follow with her combo skill, then her battle skill 2, Lifeng's battle skill, and Mifu's battle skill 3, whose recovery is animation cancelled with an ultimate. The lift from it will give her fervent morale and trigger Pogranichnik's ultimate Decisive Strike, with Lifeng's battle skill landing shortly after, which, if at P1 and above, ensures physical susceptibility is up for the last hit. The gain from susceptibility is greater than fervent morale, so if at P0 Lifeng, have his battle skill land before Mifu's ultimate. Note that since Mifu's ultimate isn't needed for vulnerability stacks, it's perfectly fine to condense the rotation further. There's no need to use her combo skill mid-Stagger, as there's enough SP to sustain a battle skill 1 cast, getting damage out sooner. This does mean being short on energy for her ultimate at the end, so it will be less damage overall. With all this in mind, let's have a look at the rotation in full without commentary. In terms of gear, Mifu is using the full damage setup, as Lifeng provides more than enough stack build with his ultimate. Chen is using Qingbo gauntlets with a new positioning kit T1, as it's both a strong damage option and a way to minimize her combo skill cooldown, which is what the rotation works around. She needs no ultimate gain efficiency, so a Swordmaster Heavy Armor T1 is used as the off-piece. Pogranichnik has no side effect here. Hot Work Gloves and Power Cartridge are used for their art's intensity alongside a Redeemer Seal and an ultimate gain efficiency armor. This is needed, as this ultimate is still important for both its time stop or for SP if Mifu's combo skill is skipped. Despite having no set, this setup is more damage than running with Frontiers due to the strength of breach scaling. Lifeng is running Bone Crusher, with Heavy Armor T1 and 2 Bone Crusher masks, but with ultimate gain efficiency on the gloves. He can also make use of Shironite if not well built, or Swordmancer for more Stagger, with both also being valid options. Although P0 Lifeng needs to be the one to trigger the first vulnerability stack, this isn't needed at P1 and above. A more SP efficient rotation is to use Mifu's Battle Skill 2 to trigger vulnerability after breach, owing to it being half cost. The loss of energy does matter though, making it so that both Pogranichnik and Lifeng would need more ultimate gain efficiency. So it can be an option, but will mean less damage overall. That about covers it for this team. Let's now go over a Mifu, Chen, Estella, and Alice rotation. This is the lowest on paper damage out of all her teams, but has some truly absurd Stagger build, which means it can actually clear faster than others depending on the stage. It begins with Mifu as a controlled operator. Go for a full basic attack string using both Estella and Alice battle skills as soon as enemies spawn. The nature of their animations means Alish's always land second, triggering Estella's combo skill. Cast it to apply vulnerability and trigger both Chen's and Alish's combo skills, which are both used in quick succession to minimize time stop for faster clears. For now, the rotation is gated behind Chen's combo skill cooldown, so loop basic attacks or animation cancelling sequence 3 where possible. As soon as Chen's combo skill is back up, use her battle skill and trigger both Mifu and Chen's combo skills. Have both be cast in quick succession, with Mifu's combo ideally being used to cancel her basic attack animations. Once done, transition into Mifu's battle skill 2, then Estella's ultimate, building Stagger, vulnerability, and applying Sure Knight's buff for Mifu's battle skill 3. A brief period of looping basics follows, and when Mifu's combo skill is starting to come back up, use Chen's battle skill. This gives enough energy for Alish's ultimate, which should be used shortly afterwards. Although Chen's combo skill has been triggered and Mifu's combo skill is now off cooldown, hold off when using it until there's almost 2 full bars worth of SP. As it's about to hit that threshold, use Chen's combo skill and Alish's battle skill simultaneously, triggering Mifu's combo skill. Use it immediately. That way, Alish's battle skill is landing around the peak of Mifu's leap, triggering Estella's combo skill. Activate it, and Alish's combo skill that comes as a result. This does lead to staggered time stops, which is bad for clear times, but it's important for setting up buff uptime, as Estella's susceptibility is quite short. As Mifu lands, go right into a battle skill 2. Alish's rare fin buff should be up right in time for the crush. As soon as vulnerability clears, use Estella's ultimate for Sure Knight and a vulnerability stack, followed by Chen's ultimate, with Mifu going into a battle skill 3 in the meantime. SP is low at the moment, and with Chen being in an ultimate animation, this is a good opportunity to go into a finisher. The SP it grants should be immediately consumed on a Chen battle skill, giving Mifu enough energy to use her own ultimate. Follow with Chen's combo skill, then go right into one final Mifu battle skill 2 to finish things off, landing just before Estella's susceptibility drops from the enemy. Unfortunately, staggers come too fast to allow for a battle skill 3, as SP is already tight as is. It is possible to stagger far faster with better cancels and time stop management, but the lack of resources make it unfeasible for this rotation. Admittedly, this isn't too much of a concern, as with proper gear and weapons on all operators, most enemies are dead long before the end. With all this in mind, let's have a look at the rotation in full without commentary. In terms of gear, Mifu was using the ultimate gain efficiency setup, as she needed her ultimate vulnerability stack application for her second battle skill 2. Chen is using Qingbo gauntlets with a new positioning kit T1, as it's both a strong damage option and a way to minimize her combo skill cooldown, although really that isn't needed here. Since Chen's combo skill isn't a limiting factor, it'd be possible to run her with Swordmancer alongside a full damage set Mifu, but only in situations where enemies die with the first set of crushes. Estella is using a full Sure Knight set, with armor and 2 auxiliary arms alongside a Link's glove off piece. The ultimate gain efficiency is important as her ultimate's vulnerability and stagger build is critical to the rotation, so getting it alongside some buffs is helpful. Alice is running a Frontier set with an Armor T3 and an extra O2 tube for secondary attributes, as well as a Fiber Gloves T1 alongside a Redeemer Seal for ultimate gain efficiency. This balances out his rare fin chances with enough energy to align his ultimate. That about covers it for this team. Let's now go over a Mifu, Rossi, Pogranichnik, and Akakuri rotation. Don't be put off by the damage split, as it's among both Mifu's and Rossi's most damaging teams, having high burst and the ability to finish off enemies that don't get one shot. It begins with Mifu as a controlled operator. Open with a full basic attack string using both Rossi's and Akekuri's battle skills as soon as the enemies spawn. Rossi should land right after Akekuri's, owing to her animation being slightly longer. This triggers her combo skill, which is used immediately. Make sure not to miss any perfect timings. As it builds 2 vulnerability stacks, this segues into Mifu's combo skill, after which another Rossi battle skill is used to get to 4 vulnerability stacks. SP is low at this point, and we don't want to breach too early, so a few basic attack loops on Mifu, ideally while animation cancelling her sequence 3, is the best filler. As the enemy is about to hit the middle Stagger node, use Pogornishnik's battle skill to consume vulnerability and apply breach. Both his and Akekuri's combo skills are used in quick succession to minimize time stop for faster clears. Try to delay their use slightly, as Pogornishnik is using Never Rest here, and with its 5 stack buff having each duration be counted separately, we don't want stacks dropping off mid-Stagger period. With 200 SP in stock going to both the Vanguard's combo skills, go for another set of Rossi and Akekuri battle skills, again followed by a perfectly timed Rossi combo skill. As before, Mifu's combo skill comes after, and there should be just enough SP for a Rossi battle skill to top up on vulnerability. The next final strike initiates Stagger, with Akekuri's combo skill and Mifu's finisher being used simultaneously. Use Akekuri's ornament as soon as her combo's animation ends, followed by Rossi's, which gets the link. When Mifu ends her finisher, wait a split second before using her battle skill. This delay is very important. That's because Rossi will apply a heat infliction with her ultimate, triggering her combo skill off the existing vulnerability stacks. So proper timing is required to have Mifu's battle skill 2 land a little after Rossi's ultimate does. Being too fast with things means that her combo skill won't trigger, which makes doing 2 sets of Mifu's battle skills in a Stagger not be possible. If everything is executed correctly though, Rossi's ultimate as well as Mifu's crush should land within Akekuri's ultimate attack buff. Follow up with a Mifu battle skill 3, as well as both Rossi and Pogornishnik's combo skills. The final hit from Mifu's battle skill gives her the energy needed to ultimate, building the first vulnerability stack, while Rossi's perfectly timed combo skill builds another 2. As Rossi has a long animation, do 2 basic attack sequences on Mifu to stall for time, mashing in Rossi's battle skill to get it out as soon as possible. Using the SP bar as a cue, cast Mifu's battle skill 2 once you notice it being drained by Rossi. That way, the final hit should land alongside the vulnerability inflicting hit for an instant 4-stack crush. Then lastly, finish off with Mifu's battle skill 3, with both it and the second part of Rossi's battle skill doing all of their damage while still in the Stagger period. With all this in mind, let's have a look at the rotation in full without commentary. In terms of gear, Mifu was using the ultimate gain efficiency setup, as she needed her ultimate's vulnerability stack application for her second battle skill 2. Rossi is using her standard set with a My Security Armor T1 for ultimate gain efficiency, as it's needed to have enough energy at the start of Stagger, and 2 security scopes T1 for crit rate. Off-piece is Redeemer Gloves, owing to its high primary stat and ultimate damage bonus. Pogornishnik's ultimate isn't a factor here, so running him with pure arts intensity is best. The damage add from a possible fervent morale doesn't make up for better breed scaling. So that's 2 Hot Work power cartridges alongside Hot Work gloves and Shurak armor as his setup. Note that since this is a double Vanguard team, Pogornishnik is on Never Rest, but Fort Maker works too. Akekuri is using a Frontier set, with Protection Suit, Fiber Gloves T1 and an extra O2 tube. Redeemer Seal is the off-piece, being needed to have her ultimate ready for the start of Stagger. Its link and attack percent buffs are what underpins the rotation after all. She's a Thermite holder for the team, and while she can't technically use OBJ while Pogornishnik holds Thermite, having him on Never Rest or Fort Maker will be better options. That about covers it for this team. Let's now go over a Mifu, Rossi, Gilberta and Perlica rotation. As of Mifu's release, this team may just have the highest burst damage output in the game. While it does sacrifice on a second set of Mifu crushes, meaning it does less overall damage than other teams, there's few things that live long enough to demand anything more. It begins with Mifu as a controlled operator. Go for a full basic attack string using Perlica's battle skill as soon as the enemy spawns. The final strike triggers Perlica's combo, which then triggers Gilberta's combo, which then triggers Rossi's combo. So use all of them as they come, making sure to land all perfect timings and, where possible, be animation cancelling Mifu's basic attack on sequence 3. As Rossi's combo builds 2 vulnerability stacks, this triggers Mifu's combo skill, which can be used whenever, ideally as a means to animation cancel a basic attack. Rossi's battle skill can be used at any point to add the 4th stack, but do not use Mifu's battle skill 2 just yet. Saving the crush is very important here. In the meantime, keep looping basic attacks until Rossi's combo skill cooldown expires, being careful to not trigger Perlicas while doing so. As soon as it's up, use Perlica's battle skill. Since vulnerability stacks are still on the enemy, this triggers Rossi's combo skill, which is used immediately. Between the first and second casts of her combo, use Mifu's battle skill 2 and 3 to clear out stacks and get some extra damage on top. With 2 stacks now built, there should be just about 1 bar's worth of SP left at this point, which is used on a Perlica battle skill, setting up for a corrosion with Gilberta's ultimate. After which, loop basic attacks until there's enough SP to use Rossi's battle skill. Depending on the enemy stagger, an additional final strike may be needed. Once Rossi's battle skill lands, it builds a 3rd stack, triggering Mifu's combo skill, which is then used alongside Perlica's. As the enemy should be at stagger, go into a Gilberta ultimate to set up her susceptibility and apply corrosion, followed immediately by Perlica's ultimate to activate Stanza's buff. The reaction from either Gilberta's corrosion or Perlica's electrification will trigger Rossi's and Gilberta's combo. Cast them both, but only the latter really matters. Go into a Mifu finisher, then use Rossi's ultimate once it begins. As she does her damage, Gilberta's combo skill will land, building the final stack, which is then followed by a battle skill 2 and 3 on Mifu, having enough damage to finish off almost any opponent. With all this in mind, let's have a look at the rotation in full, without commentary. In terms of gear, Mifu was using the full damage setup, as the expectation is that enemies die after the first set of crushes, so no ultimate is ever needed. Rossi's using her standard set with a My Security Armor T1 for ultimate gain efficiency, as it's needed to have enough energy at the start of Stagger, and 2 Security Scopes T1 for crit rate. Off-piece is Redeemer Gloves, owing to its high primary stat and ultimate damage bonus. Gilberta is outfitted with a Swordmaster set to increase her Stagger build, packing 2 nav beacons for arts intensity. She makes use of a Swordmaster light armor and Eternal Shironite Gloves T1 for ultimate gain efficiency, which is needed alongside her signature weapon to meet energy requirements. If her signature isn't available, she can use Shironite instead and still do fine, running the armor and 2 auxiliary arms alongside an OBJ arts identifier. Perlica is a stanza holder and uses a full postal lab set with Disruptor suit, gloves, and calibrator to focus on arts intensity. She does, however, need a Redeemer Seal off-piece to have the ultimate gain efficiency needed to activate Stanza's buff in time for Stagger. That about covers it for this team. While there's plenty of team combinations that Mifu can slot in, this should be enough to get you started with her rotations for those she synergizes best with. There is still room for optimization here. I should reiterate that all of these runs were done with at least one, and at times multiple characters using low-level weapons or no essences. Every rotation finishing on a kill isn't a coincidence, it's intended for cinematic effect, as gear was tailored to align with a given rotation. In truth, most would be dead long before. Enemy health pools are so low that for most content, there will be better rotations that sacrifice damage output for a quick burst, simply because few enemies would demand the amount of damage that's on show here. We're really just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to Mifu that I haven't covered, so why not like, share, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified for when a full guide drops. I've got more videos coming. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.